Yesterday, in an op-ed, Preston Manning wrote that people in Eastern Canada need to recognize, he said, that a vote for the Liberals is a vote for Western secession and a breakup of the country as we know it. Do you agree with Mr. Manning, and what do you say to people who feel that way?
No, we need to unite the country. We need to bring all Canadians together in a spirit of common ground. Let's unite our nation.
That was Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre today rejecting the thesis of former Reform Party leader Preston Manning. Manning wrote this week in an op-ed in the Globe and Mail that voting Liberal would spark a national unity crisis on account of the mismanagement, he said, of national affairs for the past decade by the Liberal government and its consistent failure to address those issues of greatest concern to Western Canadians. Large numbers of Westerners simply will not stand for another 4 years of Liberal government, no matter who leads it. We are back with the front bench to talk about that. Christy Clark, Tony Clement, and Nathan Cullen. Tony, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the answer from Mr. Poilievre, who was, as you heard in that question, posed the thesis very specifically that Preston Manning had put forward.
Well, I think that was absolutely the correct answer. If you're going to run for prime minister, you have to be a uniter, not a divider, and Pierre Poilievre understands that. And it's way too early to talk about all of the doom and gloom. I think another thing about running for prime minister is you've got to have a positive vision for the future. So again, Pierre Poilievre gets that, and I think that in that respect, that answer was the perfect answer.
Chris, I have two Westerners here on the panel, neither from Alberta, but two in British Columbia. Christy, I wanted to ask you about the sentiment, I guess, underpinning what Preston Manning wrote, and if you think that will factor into the election, because it has vis-a-vis Danielle Smith to one degree or another at different times.
Yeah, so first, you know, I like Preston Manning a lot. I know him personally, but I will say what a terrible bomb to drop on Poilievre in the middle of the campaign. He's got to spend a day talking about what Preston Manning had to say rather than talking about housing and other things that he'd prefer to be discussing. I do think, but it causes me to have kind of two important, I think, contributions in this. One is that if you think about national unity, here we have Quebec, which is now more Canadian flags are flying in Quebec than have flown in Quebec City and Montreal probably since the 60s. So we're starting to see Quebec, which we all had thought, many had thought, was on the verge of another national unity referendum, becoming very pro-Canadian, pro-patriotic, pro-unity. On the other hand, and that, you know, I don't think there's any doubt, as a result of 10 years of federal government completely ignoring and refusing the requests from Western Canadians around resource development, around economic growth, around kind of a fair share for Canada. You know, 10 years of not fighting for national unity in Ottawa has meant that we are now in this situation where you've got a premier in Alberta who is profoundly hostile to Canada, right at a time where we need national unity more than any other. So I've said this on your show before, Vashi, most important job of any prime minister is unity, 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 bringing the country together. Justin Trudeau did not succeed on that front. And now, despite, I think, the very good job that Prime Minister Carney is doing, we are seeing the fruits and the costs of that treatment of Western Canada for 10 years.
What's the best way to mitigate that, Nathan?
Well, not listen to Danielle Smith on this stuff. Honestly, I hear Christie's point. Western alienation, it's been around longer than I've been alive. Sometimes there's a really good source for it where we feel left out, especially over here on the other side of the Rockies. It's a little hard to always hear our voices reach Ottawa. But at a moment, as you said, Vashi, when Canadians are feeling a threat from outside of our borders, which is often the only upside is that there is a coming together of Canadians. We've been able to reclaim the Canadian flag on our front lawns from the truckers and convoy activists and say clearly that as a country together, we are much better than we are divided. And I find Mr. Manning's comments terrible for somebody who did also pursue that seat of power. And I want to challenge Tony a little bit. We both served in Parliament. I think when Mr. Poilievre was there, he was accused of many things. He has some talents. One of them is not as a unifier. He's really good at attacking. He's very good at taking shots at people, bringing people down, giving them names. A lot of things that, frankly, and this has been unfortunate timing for him, echo the tactics used by Mr. Trump south of the border. I think that is one of the things that's contributing to the lack of support Pierre is seeing in the polls, because people are not looking for that tone and sentiment right now of the name calling, the attacking, the dividing. So he may be many things. I've never put him in the category of a great unifier, and that's a challenge. Now, Jagmeet Singh's got an opportunity to place himself in this as the Liberals drift to the center and to the right on some issues, to be able to talk to Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And maybe this becomes more of that central issue. Beyond that first question that you asked earlier, Vashi, about Trump being the sole issue on the ballot coming up into the election, how to bring this country together, but not listening to voices that say we should be entertaining secessionist practices and policies as if that were somehow a good strategy when dealing with the existential threat of Donald Trump.
Well, let me just...
Tony, I know you want to respond. You want to jump in there. Yeah, go ahead.
Nathan's intervention. I always enjoyed them in the House of Commons. But Nathan, you may remember I used to say there's only 4 words you need to know in opposition. Those jerks did what? But now Pierre Poilievre is not running for leader of the opposition. He's running for prime minister. I think, if you listen to him during his rallies or his speeches, he is putting forward a positive vision for the country. He understands his role is different now, wearing a crisp white shirt and a nice tie and talking about the future. And I think that that's the Pierre Poilievre that he is introducing to Canadians, and it's going to work in the end.
It's just, I would only offer that it's hard with the talents, quote unquote, that brought him to this place are not going to serve him well if the tone, and we know what we're talking about here in terms of the attacks. I think they have actually continued and very personal. And Pierre and I, we used to talk about this. I'd say you can make your point without trying to tear people down personally. He chose a different path. It is also just by circumstance the same tactics and path that the current president of the United States chooses in his politics.
Well,
I think that's having an effect on Canadian opinions about all our leaders.
Let's
Mr.
remember
Carney may
that
be the most boring person in Canadian politics.
I have like
Maybe people are looking for that.
This is the same people in the Conservative
I'll give you 30
campaign.
seconds, Christy, and then Tony, go for it. Yeah, pardon me.
The same people in the Conservative campaign that last time brought us the barbaric practices hotline that lost the Conservatives the election in 2015. Same people doing it, different people saying the words.
No.
Okay,
Listen,
Tony,
all I can tell
it.
you. No, I encourage watchers of your show to listen to Poilievre, to listen to what he's saying. He's got a good future plan for the country, and if he's going to be sharp on anyone, he's going to be sharp on Donald Trump. He's not going to be sharp on the country, and that's what we need in a leader right now.
Feels a little conflicted
leave it on that
particular
note.
attack line.
I'll leave our discussion. I will leave, pardon me, our discussion there. I appreciate the discussion and the debate.